Welcome to the Troy Kearns Channel podcast, where we talk all things real estate, business, and entrepreneurship. Today, I'm with my blonde friend, Andrea Wardell.
Hi, Troy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being a guest.
Absolutely. I love the hair.
Thank you. Well, you know, it is what it is.
Trying something new.
Yeah, you know, if you're not changing, you're kind of stagnant, right?
Totally.
That's what life's all about. So I'm embracing change right now. So we tried to do a podcast like on the go, like putting my phone in the corner and us hooking ourselves up with the mics. It didn't work out this time or that time. It did this time. I wanted to talk to you specifically because you're a large part of the reason that I'm sitting in your lounge, squatting, talking loud
Right.
amongst everybody. Can you talk to the audience about who you are and why I am here today?
Absolutely. So my name is Andrea Wardell. I have been doing real estate in Kansas City for about 14 years now. Pretty much born and raised in Kansas City, owner of Wardell Holmes Real Estate. And we are in my lounge right now, aka Kearns Lounge, aka Troy's Lounge. And Troy is here today because he's doing his podcast, of course.
Right.
But also because Troy has become extremely involved in the Kansas City real estate market. Him and his family have moved here full time. They own about 100 doors in the Kansas City market.
Yes.
And are continuing to develop and create what their life looks like here while Troy is doing his mentorship and these podcasts and his new book, which we might talk about later. But either way,
that's a little teaser right there.
Yeah. They made a commitment. Might. I don't have that much time. They made a commitment to Kansas City after they had their, boots on the ground here and started creating quite the portfolio. And so we have been working together for a little over 2 years, I guess, at this point.
Right. And when we first met, let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's.
So first of all, what is your real name?
I don't even know. Andrea.
Right.
My middle name used to be Ann.
Okay.
Then it was changed from my maiden name to Butner because I'm always a Butner, and my business was Butner prior to.
Butner what?
Just Butner.
Just Butner?
Andrea Butner, yes. And then my married name was Wardell.
Okay.
And so Andrea Wardell is my name. The company is Wardell Holmes. I don't believe that any of these names really matter. No matter how many times I say my name, people still say, hey, Andrea.
So is it Andrea or Andrea?
It's Andrea.
So is it O-N?
Andrea with a heart on. Or, I'm always on. So Andrea. My parents knew that the second they figured out they were pregnant. They're like, oh, wow. Henri is what my mom likes to say.
Oh, so it's actually Henri.
It is. So that being said, my name is Andrea Wardell.
Andrea Wardell. So you're dropping the Butner and you're keeping the Wardell, even though
Butner's the middle name.
You dropped the Wardell and you're keeping the Butner.
It's all of it.
It's everything. And who are you? And in terms of, you've been here since you were 10 years old.
Right.
And where do you hail from?
I was born in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm one of 5. My dad he's retired. Both my parents are retired now. But the reason I got into real estate was my dad had always had his broker's license. And I was doing a lot in the restaurant business. And I decided one day on St. Patrick's Day, I was approached by a patron as I was bartending.
Right.
Her name was Elizabeth Berkeley. And that was about 15 years ago, and she said you should get into real estate because just like real estate, the restaurant business, it's very similar.
Is it like a new drug you should get into?
Well, yeah, you should get into anything pretty heavily if you're going to do it. Just,
right.
You can't half-ass anything. But right. I think she saw my multitasking skills, and you have to keep it cool. And if you don't show up to work in real estate and you don't show up to work when you're in the service industry, you don't make any money.
And we have that same background.
I do.
I worked at Red Robin for 8 years.
Correct.
The inverted pyramid where the customer's at the top and the employee's at the bottom.
Right. Kind of like this brokerage.
All right. So the reason that I selected Andrea, let's get rid of her.
Yes, exactly. There's only one of us here.
Yeah. The reason that I hired Andrea is I had actually sent out a text to, I don't know, probably, I would guess between 50 and 100 agents here locally.
A lot of texts.
Yeah, I just copied and pasted. It wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't like, it was like, hey, I'm going to be buying between 40 and 60 houses in the Kansas City market in the next 12 months or whatever. I said that to everybody, and then I got a call from Corey, and Corey works for you.
Yes. We received your notification from Zillow, and it is true that you bought between 40 and 60 houses in a 12-month period. There are a lot of vetting out that both the buyer or the seller and the broker have to do of one another. Whereas to make sure it's the right fit, because it is a partnership and not to waste anybody's time.
Right.
There's a lot of dreamers that talk a big game. And you have to make sure that, they're able to facilitate that so that everybody's on the same page. So we did vet you out. We only could find one Troy Kearns on Facebook.
Yeah, I wasn't in social media at that time.
Right. Well, John Doe, I think, but...
John Doe was, I think he might still be in.
Okay, good. But the Troy Kearns that we found was not you, but we were like, whoa, this guy seems crazy. His tagline was something about he eats something for breakfast and something for dinner, and it was.
We'll have to link him up here if we could find him.
Yeah, we'll probably need to find him, fly him in. We had asked for a proof of funds. You had a very extensive list of properties that you wanted to see.
Right.
And so,
were they nice properties?
All properties are nice if the numbers work.
Right, for sure. So they were nice.
They're all nice.
Yeah.
What's nice about them is what they're worth today in such a short period of time.
Right, that is nice.
But you were who you said you were, and we went and looked at a number of properties and become good friends and continue to do deals together, both with myself and Corey. And you were real, but we did our homework, and it sounds like you did too, even though maybe we were just the only ones to respond.
I think that was probably more of it than anything, to be honest with you. Like, I had met with 3 people, and out of the 3 people, you were the only people that I wanted to work with. It goes to show you that she treats all leads equally, because I wasn't treated like, oh my God, this guy's got 40, 60 property. I was actually probably treated more as a skeptic, right? Like,
well, yeah.
And the reason that I selected you, I think is more important, is specifically on your Zillow profile, which I remember reading, is like, I specifically work with investors. I specifically work with these types of people. Could you talk about how you got to that point in your career?
Sure.
Since you've been selling real estate since 2008, you got your license, and you sell about how many homes per year?
Around 200.
That's a lot of homes.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what the price tag is, whether you're selling somebody a $30,000 property or a $1 million property. It is a different type of work, but it's the same level of service. It's the same amount of work in a lot of ways. It just depends on the type of transaction.
Right.
So in 2008 was the market crash. So I had about 6 jobs as I got my license and had to make sure that I was making money. But that being said, that's when investors really started buying in this marketplace. And that's because the market crashed, just as they're, hinting to right now. So I started with a lot of leasing knowledge. So I was valuable to investors because I could explain to them, here's what the property is worth. Here's also what you could lease it for, which is a specialized type of knowledge.
Right.
And basically that was kind of my career. Now, I don't just work with investors, but our motto for the brokerage, and my motto is that whether you're buying 50 properties or your first, property that you're going to live in, it's all an investment.
Right.
So maybe you don't have to talk about the numbers on it, but it does matter what you're paying for a property, what you can sell the property for. And so I look at all real estate as investment.
I want to go back to when we first met, because I think that's such a pivotal time in my life investing in Kansas City. I came out here. It was Thanksgiving weekend. Nobody likes to work on Thanksgiving weekend, generally speaking, but you and Corey both got in a bunch of dirty, dingy basements with me and got cobwebs all over your beautiful blonde hair.
I was wearing a stocking cap, but yeah.
Yeah, you were. Good memory. Yeah, you were wearing a gray stocking cap, I think.
Black and a gray jacket with some black boots. I remember really specifically because it was a pivotal day in my life too, and we got to meet.
Yeah, well, good. Yeah. When we got into things, I was like, wow, these guys are getting into it. But one of the other things that really struck me was when we were talking about, what we would offer and how much we would offer, you were like, yeah, no, offer this. Like, even if I was saying like, let's offer 50, you're like, no, offer 38,000. And now obviously that wouldn't work. But at that point in time in the strategy, it worked effectively because nobody was buying.
Right. And
less people were.
And that Thanksgiving weekend time too, like I've had a lot of weird successes on holiday weekends because maybe people aren't out looking, and it was pretty snowy and it was cool.
Were you festive?
Very festive, very. In fact, my family celebrates Thanksgiving like Halloween. We always dress up. Started, not to get off track here, but you probably should know, about 16 years ago, I made some hats for everybody. So we had some pilgrim hats, and then we had some hats with some feathers on them with everybody's name.
Right.
And then it transpired into my dad really running with this. So, the neighbors are excited to see what the Buetners are going to dress up as. It's been anything from Western themed to 50s and 60s rock stars, political. So you just never really know, but we are very, very festive.
You are very festive, and you're very quirky, and you have a lot of cool personalities to you. I wanted to talk about, you have another side business. actually 2 side businesses that I wanted to delve into.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
One is a acronym called QPG. Can you talk a little bit about QPG and what market share you have of the local?
Wow. QPG stands for Quit Playing Games, which I wish you would right now. But it's also a motto of life. Somebody's acting up, it's just QPG. And it kind of could work for kids. It could work for adults. It could be in business. It could be in personal relationships. So QPG was something that I just kept thinking about when I had to talk to people every day, whether it was my friends or clients or just people I would see on the streets acting up. And I'm like, come on, QPG. So decided to, make some apparel, stocking caps, baby onesies, because babies play a lot of games, fleece, sweatshirts.
Those babies are always working ankles.
I'm like, QPG, baby. But that business was more of a hobby.
Right.
But the motto and the acronym is a way of life.
I think it's funny because we're all playing games.
Yeah.
Whether you want to get what you want on a deal, you're using some sort of covert tactic to get what you want. And so I think even though I am teasing you a little bit about the business, I do believe it actually has validity. And I think that if you ran with it a little bit more, then,
does Troy Kearns want to sponsor QPG relaunch?
We could look into that. Yeah. Is this a potential fundraise right now?
No, fundraise. No D.
This is a fundraise. Okay, cool. Well, comment below if you like the idea of me getting into a new business strategy, which would be a
QPGlife.com.
QPGlife.com. Is that where they can buy apparel?
I think the website's on pause right now, but
under construction.
It's under construction. Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
Good. Yeah. So you're on back order?
Big time, big time. It was a hot summer last summer.
It was a hot summer last summer. Okay. The other business that I did not know you had was you actually have a private restaurant.
Well, that's more again of a passion project. So
it's a passion project.
Yeah.
Can you talk about your passion and your project?
Yeah. So the way I operate, although I do play games, is I bob and weave with what's going on, whether it's in my personal life or in business. And when COVID hit, I'm like, well, people need to go somewhere to eat dinner. They're tired of being at home with their spouse, or they're just tired of, making food for themselves. Restaurants were shut down. So I just started doing a restaurant at my house. Started with a ristorante, which was an Italian, it was called That's Amore, in my basement.
Right.
And then we had a New Orleans theme and a steakhouse. It was not during COVID necessarily for your birthday dinner, but I enjoyed it because I could make the menu. I would go shop and get all the items. I was not only the chef, but I was also the server. I would take a couple breaks, but, nothing crazy.
No, she was fantastic. That was a really cool experience. And just like, she's kind of like not selling it hard, but to be honest with you, it was like one of the nicest things somebody's ever done for me. It was like Eden, my wife, came to me. She's like, Audrey wants to know if you're interested in like having them do like a private like chef like dinner thing at their house.
Or go to a restaurant.
I was like, no, I'm down with her program. Let's do it. And then we got there and you had like the custom made menu, like
all the ambiance. Each theme is different. The music will apply with that. The food will apply with that. But I truly enjoy it because I like to be creative, and I think that creativity and with a heavy workload can kind of balance that out in a world where there is no work-life balance for me. But something like that allows me to have a little bit of fun and to make other people feel special.
So let's go into that work-life balance. How does someone who sells 200 homes a year get work-life balance? What does your work life look outside of 2526 Holmes Street?
It doesn't. So part of the reason, if you want to, get into personal, my last name is Wardell, as I was married.
Right.
My work-life balance for about 5 years was living in Colorado and flying to Kansas City every week to run my business.
It's balanced.
That's a lot of flying and that's a lot of work. And so in all aspects, whether you are not focusing so much in your career or you're focusing too much in your career, one part of your life is going to have a little bit of a lack to it. So when you're self-employed and, you're the owner of the business as well, there's a lot of pressure to keep it going because you have a lot of people relying on you.
Right.
Not just your client base, but the people that work for you, the people that hold their licenses with you, staff and things of that nature. And so I don't have kids, but I feel like I have 20.
Right.
Well,
you do.
I do. I have my own investments too and investment properties. But for me, my mentality is go and I forget to pause.
Right.
That does catch up with you from time to time. But my thought is capture what you have in front of you and keep it moving.
Is that actually that's a pretty good one. Have you coined that phrase?
No, I haven't.
I think we should take the time to say,
Earlier, I said if people are scared, they need to go to church, because I'm not scared.
Right.
But I probably need to go to church. But no, I mean, you just have to do what you have to do. And that looks different for everybody, whether, no matter what your career is or no matter what your life looks like, you just have to do what's in front of you every given day.
Right.
Socializing used to be a lot more prevalent in my life. But as you get older and as you say, what does an 18-hour day look like at the end of the day? You might just want to have a couple White Claws by yourself.
Right. It's like, okay, I've got to be on point. I was just on point for 18 hours.
Yeah.
And now I got to go be on point for 2 more hours.
Right.
And I want to just take one down and just go chill out and relax and not do anything. So as you're getting, it sounds like more seasoned in your career, you're choosing where you spend your time and who you spend it with.
Yeah. And I have actually had a couple of realizations recently about my approach to both my clients as well as in a professional setting. When you first started something, you're so nervous and you've got to be buttoned up and you kind of fake it till you make it.
Right.
What I've noticed is that people actually prefer not playing games and just shooting them straight, but also being yourself.
Right.
So going to like a networking event, I don't always want to do that, but if I'm going to be there, I'm not going to be so rigid and buttoned up. I mean, I am, but I'm also
less rigid, less buttoned up.
Yeah, I'm finding that people want to be around people that they can relate to, even though we all do the same work. We might be at a networking event with people that are in banking or real estate, but that's what you do all day long. So let's just have fun and talk about things that matter, and being able to show a little bit of your personality to clients or anybody, it goes further than you may think. Although at first it's like, no, can't do that. Have to do this.
It's totally uncomfortable when you first. I could tell you that she has no problem showing her personality.
But I wasn't always that way. I mean, I'm not a shy person, but if I had to go to a networking event in the past, I'd be like loathing it. Go to the bathroom, walk around, be like get a drink.
She's in the bathroom again? Where's she at?
But now it's like everybody.
I think I married that woman.
Everybody's the same. They just don't know it. You know what I mean? And so it's a matter of being yourself, and that translates to business very naturally, as long as you can back it up with your successes and what you bring to the table.
Can we talk a little bit now about why you've been so successful in Kansas City and why someone, I actually know several people right now who are moving here because like they saw me move here. And they started investing here, and they're like, and I would just say like, why don't you just move here? And they'd be like, well, that's a good idea. You know, just because of the, like people living in Portland. I know a couple from Portland right now that they're like, to buy a house out here, it's $600,000 for a 1,000 square foot ramshackle house on the highway. And I'm like, well, you could buy one in Kansas City for $300,000. It's super nice and a super good area. So let's talk about why the Midwest is such a good investment for both people to live and for people to invest their money into.
Sure. So the Midwest, and it kind of says it all, we're in the middle, right? So we've never been in a situation economically or with the real estate market here with employment where it's been this huge dip of any sort. So you've got the East Coast, the West Coast, and the South, where essentially their economic struggles, their employment, their real estate markets are such a vast, I guess you could say, I don't know what the right word is here, but if something were to take a turn, it would be pretty drastic. Whereas middle, Kansas City, Midwest, it stays very even. Our property values here have had a approximately 13% increase, almost for like the last 7 or 8 years, and that's at the low end. The employment rate here, I'm not sure exactly what it is today, but it is low. We have a lot of job growth here. It's a comfortable place to live. There's not as many, I guess I would say, major attractions or, mountains or the ocean or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, the school districts here, the property prices here, the employment here, and the proximity to get to anywhere else that you might want to go is important. And
that's huge, actually. I think that's so important to kind of talk about a little bit. Like when people talk about the Midwest, and I had literally never been to Kansas City until I started investing here. And people talk about the Midwest and Kansas City. I mean, literally you're smack dab in the middle of the country, which means, hey, you want to go to Vegas? 3 hours. You want to go to Florida? 2 hours. You want to go to New York? 2 hours. You want to go here? 2 hours. Versus like if you're in Las Vegas and you want to go to New York, it's a 6-hour flight.
Right.
But on top of that, one other thing that I noticed in the Midwest, and I didn't hear you speak about, but this is something that I've just noticed. Like when I came out here as an investor, I'm like, okay, houses are cheap, labor's going to be cheap. People get paid good out here.
Right.
And if you notice, the lowest price of gas is in the Midwest right now. And people are paid better than they are like you can't hire anybody for a low wage out here because I had an ad for an electrician for $40 an hour and I didn't have one reply. It was up there for like 6 months.
Well, right. Electricians are like $200 an hour. Unless you're like DIY electrician, then you're like,
you're like, I got this shit hooked up good. So is that something that's like kind of a secret that people don't know? Is like it's a low cost of living, but a high.
It's no secret. I would say 80% of my clients are not local, but in the markets, this is what happens. So they're investing wherever they're living, and I said I can't do this anymore. Similar to you,
right?
So in Kansas City, depending on what your relationship is and able to finding properties, let's take MLS out of the equation. You have somebody that's well networked. You're still seeing 8% returns or greater. If it's the right property. Now, granted, that could change based on the class of the area, but in a lot of other markets nationwide, you're looking at 4% returns. So that in itself is driving people to want to invest here. I represent a fund that you're aware of. They have spent more money and had more successes in Kansas City, and we were able to implement a lot of the processes that they've used nationwide. They've never been to Kansas City, and I sell them anywhere from 25 to 35 homes a month and have for 7 years now. So the boots on the ground is important here. The relationships that we have with the other agents and, property sources is very important here.
Right.
Other funds and also how they operate in their other markets is more of a, let's just write up offers, see what happens, and then we'll go to the houses after the fact, which relationships are the most important thing, and that pisses everybody off.
Right. I try to do that here with you. You guys are not into that.
No, we're not into that because reputation and relationships.
I got like a little look from you, just like, guys don't do that.
I'm not going to tarnish my relationships and my reputation, so I know what's best for this marketplace, and it won't work everywhere else, but we go to every house.
In Vegas, it's very common, but we nip it in the bud if they haven't seen a property, so it makes sense.
Right, and so we go to every property first and do our due diligence up front because we're competing with other funds, which this is now basically my statement. Oh, have they been to the house? Nope. Yeah, you might want to think about that. Slam dunk for me. Oh, you have a first-time home buyer. Well, that's cool. I'm glad that they paid that much.
Right.
We're here if it doesn't work out. But I've been getting pushback lately about we don't want to sell to an investor.
Right.
And I said, okay, well, is that against fair housing? I don't know. But why? Let's have a conversation about it. Well, we heard that this other fund. I said, well, right, but that's not us. So it's communication and it's these relationships where you can't just submit offers, see what happens, and be anonymous. People go, you answer the phone? Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Just left your house.
That's it.
Yeah, so it is very important, even if it's a global or nationwide type of mentality, to still be specific to your process. And that's kind of how the Midwest is too. So, there's a lot going on here. We have a lot of development going on, but we still have these values of communication and kind of an old school mentality that's friendly and people feel comfortable with that.
Right.
So I think that says a lot for the Midwest too.
If you're listening to this show, a lot of the people who are always talking, they're in California, they're in Las Vegas, they're in Seattle, they're in the East Coast, they're in Florida, and they're looking at the average price of a house in my crappy part of my market is $300,000.
Right.
But if I come out here to the Midwest, I could buy a decent home for $100,000.
Sure. I mean, you could buy anything here. It just depends on what it is that your use is going to be. So, I think a lot of investors that are newer investors, they listen to podcasts like this, or they're on Bigger Pockets or things like that nature, and they want to do...
Who's Bigger Pockets?
I don't know. I just heard they had big pockets.
No.
I'm just saying there is a lot of noise out there for first-time investors.
Right.
And more times than not, they've been told you have to do the BRRRR method, right?
Right.
So I was just explaining this to our marketing department.
For those who don't know what the BRRRR method is, you want to break it down for them?
Sure. It's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. BRRRR, repeat. So there's not a lot of that anymore because of the price point versus how much room you have on the deal.
Right.
But I was just explaining this to Abby from our marketing department. One of my clients from Colorado just bought a house for $70,000. It's in the historic Northeast.
Love that area.
She's going to put $50,000 into it.
Okay.
And the ARV is $175,000.
Bingo.
So that is your BRRRR method. She's going to hold on to it, obviously, and it will rent for $1,200. So basically, she's making a 44% return on her total investment, and she can repeat that and do it again.
That's the big thing out here is literally you could work at Burger King and buy a house.
You could work anywhere and buy a house if you hustle hard enough.
Yeah, I know. But here it's okay, I see McDonald's is hiring for $21.50 an hour. if you can make $21.50 an hour, you can easily afford a payment of $500, $600, $700 a month, and that's cheaper than it is to rent a house out here.
Oh yeah.
And you could get involved, and you could live, and you can own real estate, which is like the American dream. And you guys have a ton of housing stock. There's still a ton of vacant, abandoned properties out here.
And there is, and you also have to know, like for instance, this property we were discussing earlier, if that would have been on the MLS, forget it. So
which property was that?
The Burr method we were discussing.
The Burr method, okay.
So that was sourced off market. If it would have been on the MLS, it probably would have sold for $100.
Right.
So you have to be able to find these deals. I always tell people, drive around, write down addresses, create your own inventory. There's a lot of programs too right now for different urban renewal areas where you don't have to put any money down.
Right.
There's 1% down programs. So if you think you can't, talk to somebody that can show you how you can. And if you're not ready right now, they'll get you there.
So you just made some pretty sizable investments in the last couple of years since I've known you. Could you talk a little bit about what you're doing in terms of your personal investment strategy?
I bought a triplex about 3 years ago, actually, in the Strawberry Hill area, which is in Kansas City, Kansas.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one well.
Yes, I bought it for $120,000.
Retaining wall?
All fixed up.
Okay, good.
For $125,000. My rents are $2,100 a month, and that property today is worth $225,000 in less than a 3-year period. So that was a good investment.
Excellent.
Put maybe $10,000 into it total. Was pretty much turnkey when I bought it.
Beautiful property. I remember it well.
Yeah. I think Eden was thinking about buying it at first. And I was like,
I remember it well.
I was like, sorry, Eden, I'm taking this one, baby.
Hey, you know what? They call that
Time kills deals.
Time kills deals. Yeah. Don't let it happen to you.
Right.
Indecision.
That's correct. I bought a property near our office here that is an Airbnb. It is booked every weekend. It was a lot of work and a labor of love, but that's my first short-term rental, and it's been very interesting and fun after the amount of renovation and the craziness was over with. And then I have my personal residence, obviously. I have a little lake house that
Yes.
I've been to before.
Lacine, Kansas, where everything's going down.
Everything's going down in Lacine. And I am actively looking for another property right now. I'm in the works with chatting about a property and getting it under contract in the Crossroads area as well. So
Is that the one I know about?
you do not know about this one.
Oh, well, I feel privileged.
Well, it's not done yet, so
So that brings me to a point. So as a person who sells a ton of real estate, is it different for you going in as the investor?
Yes, because, and I have a flip I'm doing in the West Side too right now. As an investor and as a broker, it's hard to manage your own projects.
Right.
That has been one big lesson that I've learned. So I try to do that. I try to GC it. I'm like, I've got the best guy for this and this and this. And I do.
Right.
But I don't have time to babysit. So
True.
that's a lesson that I've learned the hard way. But again, the time that it's taken me to do some of these projects, the property has already increased on its own based on, a year's difference.
Right.
I would say I have a hard time not looking at a property that's an investment property as if I'm living there. So, something that people may not even notice would make me feel like, oh shit, like this looks horrible.
Right.
Or I have to fix this little thing. So detaching a little bit from that is important too. But investing is fun once you start doing it. You get your first property, you want to do more.
So you looking to do a lot more?
Yeah. My goal is to have at least 3 or 4 doors a year. That's my conservative goals.
Sweet. And what about commercial property? Are you looking at that in the future as well?
I have had my eye on, the property we're talking about in the Crossroads is commercial. But I have had my eye on the building next door to our office here for quite some time. And so
The one that they're renovating right now?
Mm-hmm. They have a
Copy.
tenant improvement going in, but it would be very convenient. That's
Right.
for sure. I'm looking for probably more on the multifamily side right now, but it's just got to be the right property and it's got to be something that's not listed.
So we are doing potentially a big deal. Hopefully by the time this podcast airs, we will either know that we're in the deal or that my dreams are crushed, and
not be
I will
crushed.
be maybe looking for a sublease in the building. But so we're going to talk a little bit offline. I just want to talk about this because Andrea's been with me through the whole journey. So first of all, when I came out here and I uprooted my whole life. And so I have a very good life in Las Vegas. I have a big office. I got buildings that I bought and everything like that. And now I'm renting a studio from you in the corner. And you've been totally gracious with your time and your space and everything. I'm totally grateful for it. But as you know, we got a bunch of stuff going on. And so we're on the hunt for this property. We made an offer on the Western Union building. If you guys want to check out that video, go check it out. It's on my YouTube. That one didn't work out. It was pretty much a hard, fast no, and we moved on. It was like, I'm not chasing that one. The number's the number. And then we continued to look for more and more properties. I keep sending you a bunch of stuff, and we found Broadway. And, Broadway, 802 Broadway is a beautiful building. We both agree on that. And it's one of those properties that I felt was safe, and It was easy, and it was...
But that's not your MO anymore.
It
and
really
that's all there
isn't.
is to it.
When I was looking at that building, I found another building that wasn't on the market, and I went after it, and didn't work out. And I found that at a Christmas party to the guys who actually did buy it. That and like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, is the Midwest is all about being straight up and not burning bridges. I think is kind of what you put it, is being straight up with people and working out and having a good relationship. And that relationship, that small relationship, ended up coming back around. And then I called you and I told you, hey,
right.
I just drove over to this property after we got done doing our walkthrough on this one, which I spent money on. I spent several thousands of dollars doing my studies. I planned on buying the property, but then the other one became available. And now we put an offer in and you're doing it. I want you to talk about that deal, because I think that I'm too emotional about it. Like you talked about having separation.
Right.
This is one of those things where I'm like, I need to get a broker involved.
And I feel like you have bigger and better syndrome.
BBD?
BBS. But that being said, sorry. I have not seen you so excited about a property until we went to that one, and myself saying, okay, well, we have to make sure that this first deal is handled the right way, and my relationships with these brokers, but it's ultimately up to the buyer as to what it is that they're looking to do.
Right.
And when you did your diligence on the first property, parking was a deal for you, and it had been a deal for you, but you wanted to find the spot and you wanted to get this property going. This next potential endeavor is a legacy project. It is a big deal. It's
super. I took a picture of it yesterday. I just drive by it like a romantic. Like I'm just.
He's just waiting outside, and
I totally am. I've done like so many TikToks there. It's just something that's.
It is an excellent opportunity. It is something that will be able to kind of grow with you as you're continuing here. And you will make money on that down the line. There is so many different uses for this property. The location of it is absolutely outstanding. The views are outstanding.
Well, we can mention it because if we either have it or we don't, it doesn't even matter, because we'll either know by the time this podcast is not going to air for.
So it's 1044 Main. It's in the heart. There's a huge parking structure that you could basically remove or build up on, and there is an anchor tenant owner in place right now.
Right.
Outside of that, from a short-term rental standpoint, multifamily, creative office, professional office, there's so much flexibility to what you could do here. It's interesting. When I first got to the property, I'm like, why am I here? And then, we're just walking around, and, I will mention this just from a context standpoint. I do commercial and residential real estate, which is not normal.
Right.
So the way that I was treated when I got there by the good old boys in commercial,
right.
It's like, oh, hey, I have this house, and I do probably...
I did pick up that conversation,
more volume than they do, but it's a different type of deal.
Right.
But, it was interesting to me to say, where am I fitting in this deal? And then lo and behold, we're about 10, 20 minutes from getting the deal done. But our relationship and, what you're trying to achieve is important to me. And if that would have been something that would have been better achieved without my involvement, I would have respected that. But I feel like we are on the right track with this property, even though I was like, come on, man. On the last one, this is a better option for you.
Right. And that's what it really boiled down to, because you asked me that hard question. You're like, are you serious? You're actually going to back out of this deal? And you kind of gave me the, don't do this to me. We fought hard for this one.
We did.
And
it was like
and I said a couple different words back to you, which you've mentioned a bunch of times to me.
Time kills deals, baby.
And that's exactly what happened there. The sellers were too slow to act. I was ready, hot and heavy. I would have performed on it, and it just moved too slow.
Right.
And then the other deal came back around. And once you and I both went there, I wanted you to see it, and because I figured you would let me know what your opinion was.
Right.
And what's your opinion about that property?
I think it's outstanding. The views are just insane. I used to work one block from there. I'm familiar with the building. I haven't been in there in a long time, but you were like a kid in a candy store. And it was fun to watch, although I was still like, why am I here? You know, but now I know why, and I'm excited about it for you. I feel like this is something that is going to be in your family for a very long time, and it's a slam dunk if and when it goes through.
I would like to talk one thing. So we won't talk about price, but it's expensive. But I will tell you, I was telling my dad about it the other day, and I was like, Dad, the replacement cost on this building alone has got to be $50 million.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just from a replacement cost alone, it's got to be $50 million. And the reason I brought it up in our podcast here is, where else in the world can you buy a building on 10th and Main, a beautiful building?
Yes, very well taken care of.
Very well taken care of for under $6 million in downtown anywhere.
Just go ahead and 2 years from now, double that. And that's what's happening regardless. So it seems like a lot, but you will not lose money on this.
You know, it just, whenever you're looking at a deal, like, that's why I looked at it when I was looking at Broadway. I was like, you know, in 2013, I bought my first commercial property. I had no idea what I was doing. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And I just kind of crunched some numbers real quick. And I was like, okay, it was 1.25. And I was like, I'm doing an SBA loan. This will work. And when I looked at Broadway, that was kind of the same way I looked at it. I was like, yeah, this will work. And, you know, that property that I'm currently selling today, I'm trying to sell, is the property on Sahara. But when you look at a property like 1044 Main, like you said it, and the reason I'm so excited about it is I feel it's like a pinnacle for me. It's like the, you know, we did Armor together, which is a fun project. And, you know, but it's
a very different type of project, though.
Right.
Armor is your, you know, multifamily, affordable housing, solid area, solid building. This is legacy.
Right.
And that's just kind of how I feel about it.
Penthouse. We talked about penthouse suites.
I wanted to do a penthouse on top of a penthouse.
No, that was your idea.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. No, my idea was just a penthouse.
And I'm going to be able to utilize some of this space at my free will, you know, put all my equipment in there. And
only thing you'll see is I'll be walking around with a PA saying, keep it quiet.
No, I like to have a broom so I can be like, Troy, shut up.
All right. So going back, I digressed a little bit, but going back to, you know, real estate and kind of motivating people, you know, one of the things that my TikTok coach actually said is, he said,
you have a TikTok coach?
I do. Yes. You might need one.
I don't do TikTok
yet.
Well, my marketing team does, but yeah.
You might. Yeah, you might. But one of the things he said is, he's like, you know, it's really tough for a lot of guys to relate to two bald guys talking about real estate. And he's like, you need to have some really successful females on there. And you're a successful female in what you said, kind of a good old boys club. How would you inspire women and men who are out there listening to you right now? Somebody who sells 200 to 300 homes a year on a high level, deals with hedge funds, represents buyers on multi-million-dollar deals, and does so. How would you motivate them and inspire them?
So first and foremost, you have to have the hustle in you. You cannot teach that. You can teach people the semantics or the paperwork or whatever it is. You also have to have perseverance. You have to, if you don't know what you're doing, you have to ask for help, because you can only fake it for so long. And education is very important. And I'm not talking necessarily about continuing education, which you have to do, obviously.
Right.
It's a matter of becoming familiar with what it is that you will succeed at. I always say start with like who you know and where you go. When you're trying to build up
who you know and where you go.
Oh yeah. When you're trying to build up your book of business, everybody's anonymous. There's lots of agents out there. There's lots of investors out there, but where do you fit in?
Right.
In terms of like motivating yourself to do what it is that you want to do, that's not something that I could inspire somebody with the exception of, I don't have a college education. I've worked very, very hard, and it has not been the easiest road. But if you stick to anything, you will succeed in it if it is truly your passion.
Right.
If you look at it as a job, just go ahead and just get a job.
Right.
Because again, like when I have new agents that come on board, I say, it's like you're opening up a store, okay? So if you're going to be open for 2 hours a week, you're going out of business.
Right.
So it's what you put into is what you're going to get out of it.
Right.
And if you need mentors or if you need help, then you have to ask for it. And again, the more you do something in a repeat process, which it's not always going to be the same, you have to understand that it's going to click if it's supposed to.
Right. And so you're clicking on all syllables right now. You inspire a lot of people, myself included, with your good nature and your like kind of no strings attached in terms of helping people out. You're always looking to go above and beyond for people, no matter if it's I think you've sent me like some pretty interesting referral sources from like the appliance guy at.
Listen, I see something in somebody and I want to help them.
Right.
Because somebody did that with me. You know what I mean?
Right.
But outside of that, everybody has a skill set. And so I do a lot of that. I say, okay, this person is great. I am going to do whatever I can to help them. But that can only go as far as what they're doing to help themselves. It is just in my nature to want to, make sure everybody has a piece of the pie.
What do you recommend that someone does to take action today to get started investing in real estate or possibly changing a career like you did and getting started becoming a realtor?
Find a mentor. Make sure you have some savings.
Okay.
Do your homework. Figure out if you're a self-starter. Investing in real estate and being a real estate broker don't always have to be one and the same. A lot of times they become that way, but it's a very different animal. Do you want to help other people in finding their dream home, or do you want to, there's all different types of real estate. So I would say you have to determine, is there a certain area? Is there a certain demographic? Is there a certain thing that drives you the most? Because an agent that does only investment real estate is not the agent that's going to sell a high-end condo in the suburbs if they do an urban real estate.
Right.
So don't be scattered. Find a lane and stick to it, because I think a lot of times, and I did this too when I first got into real estate, I was like so hungry. I'd be like, okay, sure, yeah, I'll show you 50 houses. Oh, you don't have a pre-approval? That's fine.
That's fine.
No, I'll pay you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally cool. I can definitely be there in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Yeah.
But take a pause and figure out who you are and what it is that you want to do.
Right.
And being all over the place doesn't translate into you being an expert. Even though you'll work in different areas, whether you're investing or you're working, you have to start with what it is that you can master. And that's
really good advice.
Takes a team.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, is that a lot of people, they don't value their time. The store closes when it closes, it opens when it opens, and then the storekeeper runs around not asking people if they even have the money.
Right, and follow-up is really important.
That is, the fortune is in the follow-up.
It is.
Because most realtors will be like, yeah, I contacted them once.
You can't do that. You cannot do anything one time.
Right.
And if at first you don't succeed, try again. Like if you're going to have a lead, I store all this shit in my head.
Right.
But okay, what's going on with this person, and this person?
Right.
You have to be a source of value too. So even if you're not working with this person right now, send them something of value weekly through an email. Try different approaches, whether it's a text, a call, an email. Not everybody wants to be called. You cannot just say, this is blah, 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 and I'm a real estate agent. Well, so is 9,000 other people.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
So you've got to be different, and you've got to show your worth, because things are going automated. And there is no way that you can replace a human connection and somebody that values
That's good advice.
What the big picture is for you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that just want to make a couple bucks,
right,
and they're fine with a low risk, low reward life,
right,
or they're okay with taking advantage of people. So find a team, find your niche, find it out, what it is that you're doing, but you cannot do anything one time.
How do people, if they want to get started in real estate investing, how do they get a hold of you? Where are you at on the social media platform? You want to give out your details?
Sure. Our website is wardellholmes.com, which is WARDELLHOLMES.com.
Were you a spelling bee champ?
Actually, I was. 6 times.
Because I watched you the way that came out. And
yeah,
it was like...
I actually was one of my worst days. The word I got out on was assassination, because I was going to Catholic school and I just felt in my mind, there's no way that would be spelled ASS. That seems wrong. So I left out an S and I was like, ding dang ass. But yeah, I was a pretty good speller. And then Wardell Holmes RE is our Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. My email is Andrea@wardellholmes.com, and I'm sure this will all be in your...
It will be. We'll be hooking it up. Make sure you guys, if you're listening, give us a 5-star review. Make sure you share this video with a friend. Make sure that you get started investing in real estate, and definitely check out Kansas City. And if you're looking to get invested in Kansas City, check out Wardell and Holmes. Even though it's not Wardell, it's on Holmes.
Yeah.
It's Buettner and Holmes.
Yeah.
Might be. Well, on that note, we'll get the hell out of here. I appreciate you coming in and spending time with us. And if you guys like this podcast, then give us a 5-star review. If you didn't, shut your mouth. Okay.
Okay.
Peace.
See ya.